Hip hip hooray, gamers, and welcome to this week's episode of the Game Space Game Show. The only show where the term keyboard warrior refers to our hardware editor who has a suit of armor made out of mechanical keyboards. Steven here, back from last week's one show hiatus, but I'm only a quarter of your hosts for this evening, as this week we have three other fine hosts, equal parts co-hosting. And before the end of the show, we're going to merge together to form some kind of large anime-inspired robot. But before we do that, let's say hi to our hosts tonight. Fresh off from writing a mini novel about Ring of Elysium, we have our Battle Royale correspondent, Bowman, here. How's Bowman today?
I'm doing well. How are you? I know the answer. You don't have to say it.
Okay. Well, good. And then Robin joins us this week, fresh from her start in a new land. Didn't you just recently move somewhere, Robin?
Yep, I moved down to Texas.
Ooh.
Like across the country, but north to south.
Interesting.
What you don't know is she's living right next door to you.
She very much could be. I don't look at my neighbors. I just kind of.
Same here.
Yeah,
I don't want to know any of them.
Yeah. No eye contact in Texas. We just try to keep to ourselves. Talk to cows, things like that.
We do that here in New York too.
You talk to cows a lot in New York?
We have more cows in this area than we do people, so.
Okay.
I was going to say, outside of the city, it's a lot of farmland.
I just imagine that Bowman lives in like a cow community where all the cows have houses and...
Like,
pretty much.
Like where all the cows from Farside retire.
Their barns may be better than our houses.
The Farside cows. And lastly but not leastly, the beastly Pastor Dame joins us this week. Dame, I don't think anyone would describe you as beastly, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to make a rhyme.
Well, I just did.
I mean, one week I was El Pastor, now I'm beastly. I mean, I never know what's going to come next, Steven.
You
always keep me on my toes.
Yeah. I thought he was going to call you the Vault Boy Pastor.
Yeah, I could do that too. You never know what's going to happen on when we introduce people. This week's show, let's talk a little bit about it. It's rather serendipitous that having Dame on, because we're going to shuck and jive with the information we've received as we lead up to the release of Fallout 76. And no, for those who haven't heard of it yet, you didn't miss 72 other Fallout games after Fallout 4. This is kind of a side journey.
No, it took 76 years to make this game.
It could possibly. This is kind of a side journey from the single-player game that many of us have come to know and love, and Dame has had an all-hands-on-deck trial of this game, as you can kind of see by his little chair next to him, who's now his best friend because it's got a face and everything.
It is.
And so we're also going to talk a little bit about our personal feelings towards the game, and we're also going to go through news and stuff later. So maybe before I stick Robin and Bowman on Dame with their feelings, maybe we could just get a quick synopsis of what's going on, what we can expect, and we're also going to be playing some gameplay that Dame was nice enough to procure for us by means that I'm sure he'll tell us, but I'm gonna say that they were savory. It's not unsavory like Indeed. The way Bowman gets his content. He's always very sneaky stealing content. But let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna play the stream.
Come on, guys.
But yeah, so if you're on the podcast, you want to see what's going on with Fallout 76, definitely check out the, I guess, the replay of this show. So take it away, Dame.
So the best way that I can wrap up what Fallout 76 is really is the way that Bethesda is pitching this, is it's Fallout with your friends. That was the thing that I think really surprised me walking into this, because I mean, we really had very little information outside of what we got at E3 about what Fallout 76 was going to be. We had all sorts of speculation as far as how that was going to go, but really what I got to experience was a very natural Fallout experience that just had other people in the world. I believe that each of the servers is going to only hold up to 24 people, including yourself. and so like all of your camp, your gear, all of that stuff is tied to your character. So when you drop into a world, like all of your stuff drops in there with you, and when you leave it, all of it leaves with you. So it's not like an Ark situation where somebody can come up into your camp and kill your dinosaurs and wreck your stuff and whatnot. But yeah, I mean the translation from Fallout being a single player narrative driven game to being a multiplayer game, they've had to make a few changes that were some of those things that were kind of the big questions of like, what are they going to do with things like the VATS system? Like VATS has been so iconic with the Fallout series of being able to slow down time and target limbs and stuff like that. That still exists as more of like an accuracy aid, and there are perks that you can unlock that will allow you to target limbs, but it doesn't slow down. Like everything's done in real time, so it doesn't slow anything down. For that. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the Clef Notes version of Fallout 76. I do want to throw out there too that there is still a story to this game. So you're still going to have some of that narrative experience through. You're going to be following in the footsteps of Vault 76's Overseer. The really interesting thing about this particular story is. And this is one of the things in talking with the devs that was really kind of a cool thing to hear them talk about was this story chronologically is the closest to like the Great War of the Fallout series. It's the closest story that they've been able to tell. And so these are some of the first people that are going out into the world post-apocalypse. They're the first people that are, discovering things like what is a death claw. They're the first, and I had some rather intimate and terrible experiences with death claws. There is a place called Death Claw Island in this game, and it lives up to its name. It lives up to its name. I think some of the footage.
Island made of death claws.
I don't want to spoil too much. I'm just going to say that it lives up to its name. But anyway, you follow the journey of the Overseer of Vault 76. When she went into the vault, she was a young woman. Then became the Overseer of the vault. And so, like, as you're following her holotapes and some of her, so she kind of gives you a mission, and as you kind of follow through her footsteps, it's very much in the Fallout tradition of like you have some of these moments of levity from seeing some of the juxtaposition of like the cheery vault boy in the post-apocalyptic world, right. But then also you have these really dark moments too, like with her story, like you get to hear her recount stories of being in some of these places and being like a young girl in some of these places that she's going and it's just I think it's going to make for a really interesting story, but then some of the other storytelling is just kind of environmental. You run into things, right. And just like I'm, slapping my microphone here, and you'll pick up quests. You'll notice in the right-hand side of the gameplay video there's a running list of these are some things, these are some objectives that as I'm like going into a place and as I'm like listening to holotapes or checking out like a terminal and stuff like that, there were details that kind of came out of those things, right. That are objectives that you can find along the way. There's a question on Twitch here. Is this going to be available on computer or just console? It is going to be available on both. So it's going to be on PC and Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
But each will be separate, I'm assuming, usually?
Yeah, so that's kind of the interesting question across the industry right now is cross-play between the different platforms. As it stands right now, yes, everything is going to be segregated, based on the medium that you're using to play the game. I'm not sure how that's going to work down the road as they're talking about private servers as well. So that's kind of a future thing. That whole conversation gets into the conversation of mods and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So like modding is still going to exist in the game, but it's not going to be a thing until private servers are a thing. Yeah, one of the devs had said something along the lines, or used the story along the lines of like, if I create in a mod the machete of one-shot death, and I bring the machete of one-shot death into your game, that's going to be a bad time for you in your game.
Yeah.
So they want to respect the modding community, because it's been one of those things that has always followed Bethesda to every single game that they've created. I mean, for goodness sake, like there were into people talking about that they can't wait to put Thomas the Tank Engine into this game, because that's a thing. You make dragons in Skyrim, Thomas, and that's what you do with Bethesda games. But unfortunately, that's going to be one of those things that when private worlds are a thing, which is going to be a future thing, it's not going to be out at release. It's going to be, it's just going to have to wait until then.
That makes sense, though, because like you said, it's too easy to really screw things up for everybody with mods and stuff.
Yep.
The burning question, will Khajiit have the wares?
Khajiit did nothing. Khajiit did nothing.
One thing I was kind of wondering about, because it hasn't been clear, is like there is a story and there's multiplayer, and a lot of places or a lot of games that do that, they'll kind of like segregate the story into like instanced areas and stuff. But like, is that how it's going to work in Fallout 76?
There will be no instanced areas, no instances, no dungeons. Everything is in real time.
Oh.
So that is my understanding, at least, and they were that was one of the things they were very, very adamant about, is that this is not, it's not an MMO, it's not a survival game, it's not a first person shooter. It's kind of again, they just continue to bring it back to it's Fallout with your friends. Yeah. And so it will be interesting, though, Robin, to see like at what point in time is there going to be any content that's gated behind those things.
Right.
As far as I know, the only content that is going to be gated behind the story is access to some of the nuclear codes, which nukes are a thing. And I got to experience that firsthand.
Beyond the Fat Boy?
Yes, beyond the Fat Boy. I'm trying to think if the Fat Boy exists in the iteration that you would know it. I did not run into one as far as getting one. I know that they exist in some form or another in the game. But again, you have to remember too, this is the first crew of people that are coming out of the vault. Some of the technology that we're used to, like the like some of the Minutemen's like laser rifles, weren't quite engineered because the necessity wasn't there. Will you still have some of the General Atomics stuff? Yeah, absolutely, because that stuff would have been involved in the war. Power armor is still a thing because that would have been there.
But now it's all nice and shiny. It's not rusted and old, right?
We did have a couple of people that, this is kind of a really, really funny thing. Like somebody asked the devs if there was anything that we didn't get to experience or didn't get to see, and they're like, you guys actually blew through more of the content that we thought that you were going to. There were people that found suits of power armor. There were people that got into areas that they didn't think that people were going to get to. But I mean, the experience that we had was really one where it was like, okay, we're going to give you a guide, and you can follow the guide if you want. But if you want to just run off and do your own thing, be our guest. We want you to experience the game however you are going to experience the game.
Will there be hidden rooms like there was in Fallout 4? Unfinished hidden rooms that we find on said stadiums?
I cannot confirm nor deny that.
That's the best part of Fallout 4, is looking for all those hidden, unfinished rooms that you have to jump to.
It's my understanding that there's a lot to discover within this game. The landmass is huge. They said it's actually 4 times bigger than they had initially planned for it to be. Just because when they put when they put 24 people into this play space, one of the consistent feedbacks that they got back from their team was it just kind of feels emptier. It feels like there's not enough to do with so many people, you know, in the space. And they really do want, like, as even though, like, in a game, the people that are in the game will show up on your map, but they wanted it to be such a thing where, like, yeah, you could see that, but your likelihood of running into them, like if you're kind of off in the you know, off of the beaten path, you may not run into other people while you're playing.
That's a substantially different kind of feeling for multiplayer, because a lot of times you're like, oh, there's a person,
Right.
Like you're surrounded all the time, you know.
Yeah,
Please don't shoot me.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another point of interest here. One of the big concerns that people have had has been PvP, and as you're actually watching the video right now, there's a little bit of PvP that's going on right now. We had somebody that ran into our map that had a bounty on their head. Basically, when you attack another player, you get a bounty a caps bounty that's put on your head. Whether you kill them or not, that is an act of aggression that will net somebody who kills you a bounty of caps. Now, you can at a certain point turn on a pacifist mode. This means that you will not inflict any friendly fire. You can, however, still be attacked, but the damage that you receive is highly reduced. It's highly reduced until you attack the other player back.
Interesting.
Oh, jeez.
Now, when you die, and this is one of those things that, again, this falls into the category of Bethesda kind of wants this to be a little bit of a choose-your-own-adventure, but it does also want to kind of put a little bit of the brakes on people that might make the experience miserable for other people.
Right.
You will not lose any of your gear, so you can't be griefed for your gear. Okay, so let's say you find a great set of gear. If you are killed, if you die by environment or player or whatever, you still keep your gear. Yes, it takes some durability damage, like any other Fallout game. It still takes that durability hit. The only thing that you lose is the junk that is in your inventory. And I mean, like the literal
junk.
Yeah, so like
I have to sell that for caps.
Your pencils and your desk fans and your clipboards
Not
and all
my
that.
fans.
I know, right? I know.
Not my coffee mug.
So all of that stuff will be a thing. Just to answer the quick question from Twitch here, how are we streaming Fallout 76? This is actually footage from a preview event that I had the privilege of being at last week. Bethesda Game Studios was kind enough to invite us to be a part of the world first group of people to experience Fallout 76. And so what you are seeing here is some of the gameplay footage that I was able to get from that. The game comes out in November 14th, I believe. And Bill, I think you had asked a question in chat there about how much will it cost. I think it's pretty much the standard. What is it, like $60 US dollars for a AAA title? I think that's pretty much what it's going for. I will need to fact check me on that. But right. I know they had like a Power Armor edition that had I think it's like a T-51 Power Armor helmet.
If that's not giving me a full set of Power Armor, I want my money back.
Yeah, you're not getting a full set of Power Armor out of it. So sorry, man. Them's the breaks. So yeah, I mean, going back to the PvP thing, like PvP is it does exist. It is discouraged because, again, remember, like you guys are the first people out into the world after post nuclear event, and so So the hope is, that people coming out of this vault aren't going to be like, well, I'm sick of you all. Now I can kill you because we're out in the world again.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in a vault with people for an undetermined amount of time, that is probably the most likely scenario.
I was going to say.
I think it was.
They're sitting in their dorm. They're like, when can
only 30 years? Did you say only 30 years?
I think I did say only 30 years.
Jeez.
I mean,
I think some of these people might have been on my nerve in the first week, but only 30 years.
My first few minutes, probably.
The good news is that Vault 76, if you're familiar with Fallout lore, most of Vault-Tec vaults had some type of social or scientific experiments that they were running on the people in their vaults,
nice.
which kind of adds to some of the the mystery of what's going on in some of these games. Vault 76 was actually a control group. So there were no experiments. These people that went into this vault were just that.
So they're legitimately going crazy because of people driving them nuts because they have nothing else to do.
Yes, it wasn't like there were little crickets that were playing in their ear as they were trying to sleep, or
they weren't in cryostasis.
Yeah, they weren't in cryostasis or anything like that. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight something that's in the video right now with perks and how perks work, because this is actually another new system to the way that Fallout 76 functions from a mechanics standpoint. So if you remember from Fallout 4, every time that you put a point in one of your special categories, you had a cascading list of perks that you could then choose from as you put more points into those categories. Perk cards work a little bit differently from the standpoint of every time that you level up, you get a perk point, and then you get a perk. I believe you get a perk card as well. Most of the time, when you allocate a perk point, it'll give you a series of cards within that specialization for you to choose from. But you're not limited to just those cards. You can actually hit the bumper one way or the other, and it'll show the series of cards that you have to select. So let's say that you've got 4 points in strength, and then you have 3 points in agility. You've got all of and you'll notice too here that each of these cards has a numerical value to them up in the upper left hand corner. The number of points that you have allocated to a special category, the cards that you have can add up to that number. So you can have as many cards in that category as you have skill points to add up to that sum. So let's say that you've got, going back to the original question or the original scenario, so let's say that you've got your 3 points already spent in your agility, but you've got a couple of points that are open in your strength. You just applied a point into agility, but you grab a strength card instead, so that you can slap it back onto that pile then and fill out that row of cards then, I guess. Right. And those can be changed out at any time.
Okay.
So perks can be, yes, it's awesome, because there are some perks which will impact your group. We had one guy that was running with us that had gotten a bonus to experience card. So because we were sharing in a group together, experience was better with the group.
Nice.
And so
teach me, Jedi Master.
And so you have some really interesting dynamics that you can have with the perk cards. The other thing too is that if you get doubles on the cards, you can turn them into a greater value card. The thing that I learned the hard way though is that, again, you have to have the right amount of skill points in that category to still equip that card.
So you could double make something into a greater and then be like, oh wait, but I can't equip that.
Yes, because I totally did that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Rookie mistake.
Mistakes were made.
Indeed.
I had another question I thought of about servers. So I know you mentioned private servers, but before then, is there going to be a mechanism so that you can try to force to be put together with your friends, or is it just kind of everybody all wherever?
Sure. The way that I understood it from the way that the devs talked, is that they would always try to, the servers would always favor people in your friends list and geographic location before they would go further out.
Right.
So if I'm understanding right what they said, it's that yes, that we'll prefer your friends, and that will likely be how things go. Again, they were.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's kind of a hopefully thing. Like there wasn't really a 100%. This is how we know this is going to work all of the time on every time. But that was one of the things they were trying to work into.
I'm sure there's a way to do it. I mean, with the way that systems like the Xbox and PlayStation do, if there's already a friend in a game, then it's really easy just to join on them into whatever game that they have. Kind of like how the Division did it a little bit. And this game reminds me a lot of the Division's Dark Zone in the sense that you kind of have that small group of people. You go around, you've got the PvE aspects of it to get your loot and everything, but you also have the PvP aspects. But you couldn't really get away from them in the Dark Zone for the Division. One thing that kind of interests me a little bit is they said that there's going to be a small amount of NPCs, and I know that there's been some talk about about the story and things of that nature, but exactly how much story are we going to have, and how are they going to be, since this is going to be a multiplayer game and PvP is definitely optional in some senses. Do they have content that's, I mean, I know that you talked about Deathclaw Island, but is there going to be content that is geared around multiplayer?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that the way that they talked about the game, they said that most of the game can be experienced solo, but you'll find that some things are just better in a group. The video that we have up right now is actually on Deathclaw Island, and you can see we're trying to set up like camps and stuff like that to set up like turrets and whatnot. But this was something that we were led into, and again, like I said, going back to the original question, this is one of those things that we needed each other to be able to do what we did on this island, because you'll see we're all like level 5, 6, and we ran like across level 26.
Oh wow!
Double star elite, irradiated and diseased Deathclaw.
You guys had a death wish.
Yes, and we took it down.
Wow.
After dying miserably, of course. But yeah, I mean, there is going to be content. I mean, the whole thing is meant to be experienced, either way you want to play, whether it's together with a group of people. I don't think that there's going to be any content, if this is what you're getting at. I don't think that there's going to be any content that's gated behind, like, you have to have like 5 people to do this thing. But you're always going to find that there are situations that it's probably better to have 2 or 3 other people with you to be able to do the thing. As I'm walking up to the shoreline here to harass the Deathclaw in the water here. So, this is definitely an experience that was far better with having 4 of us rather than just me, taking a couple claws to the face, and trying to take the thing down myself. Going into the chat here, who is Matt B? How large are the servers going to be? They're going to have up to 24 people on a server. And that is our understanding right now. As far as what that's going to look like when private worlds are a thing, not really sure if that's going to be it's going to be something that's going to be limited or expanded on. One
thing that they mentioned in one of the interviews that they had was that the servers originally were slated to be anywhere from 24 to 32 people. So maybe they were workshopping with possibly 32 people, and then maybe it'll open up for private servers. That wasn't really clear, but it looks like they settled on the 24.
I think that's what they agreed on, was like the sweet spot for what they were trying to do.
Yeah, which is fine. I know that a lot of people wanted this to be much larger scale than it is, but...
Well, but like if they want it to be kind of sparse in the amount of people that you run into so that you're not running into people constantly, like every time you add any number of people, you've got to exponentially increase the size of the area because you're just filling up the same space. You're going to see people all the time.
Yep.
So...
Very, very true. So before we move on to the news, because we still have quite a bit of news, is there anybody out there who has any other questions that you'd like to ask Dame? Here we go.
We got a question from the chat. How would you role play a raider in this game if PvP is voluntary? Seems like it'll kind of be weird if you have to ask to get robbed. That's a great question. I mean, you can totally play the bandit if you want to. The only thing that you're really going to be able to raid off of people is their junk. So they're, if you have somebody, yeah, you can be a junk, and actually you can set up shops. You can. Yeah, nice. You can set up shops and you can sell stuff.
Interesting.
And set the cap value for it as well. So anyway, I guess that if you wanted to play the raider, then you could set yourself up with some good gear and just find where people are collecting stuff and things that are of value. And if you really wanted to camp those places, you could. I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to, you could totally do that thing. But I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to die a lot, and you're going to have to repair your gear a lot, and that gear isn't going to really gear isn't really going to do you much good if it's broken. So
you could. Well, that's true.
Yeah, question about PvP. Seems like some PvP and other gameplay videos on YouTube, and it seems like you get less damage until you fire back. That's correct. So yeah, you're not going to have to worry about somebody sitting back and doing like a one-shot sniper thing. You do receive reduced damage until you engage in the encounter.
Do you know how much it's reduced by?
I don't.
Probably quite a bit, but I would imagine that if someone wanted to kill you and you just refused to fight back, that it would take them a little while to do so.
I imagine that it is going to be enough that if somebody is just coming fresh out of the vault and you have somebody else that's had been in the beta and collected gear and gotten a jump start on you, I can't imagine that Bethesda is going to be okay with people spawn camping the vault and being like that. They have been very clear to say that they are going to be keeping an eye on it, and if they see behavior in the game that's breaking the experience for people, they will find you. And they will make that experience not so great for you. Yeah. It is a thing. It exists. But it's also, again, going from the RP aspect of it. Again, remember, you guys are the first survivors out in the world. As far as you know, that's all there is in the world. So yeah, there's that. So, any other questions before we move on? Final opportunity.
We can always route back around if people join and have any more questions. We're gonna let this play through. It's almost a full hour of gameplay, so we'll just let this play through, and then whenever it ends, we'll swap back to the other stream. But if anyone does have any other questions about it, definitely let us know. Dame's not going anywhere. He's going to be here till the end of the show. So
indeed.
Yep. For sure. But I think we've actually covered a great deal, and I definitely want to revisit this conversation again after, and I know that we will once the game launches, full-bodied and death claw egg, omelet, blamco, cheese, and all. It always somehow comes back to food, but You know, we're definitely going to revisit it whenever the game launches, so we can talk a little bit about how each of us takes it. But one thing that you briefly mentioned, but something that we should mention again, is the beta is supposed to go live this weekend, right?
For Xbox One, I believe it is this weekend.
Could be. If you pre-ordered, they definitely said you're going to be able to get in a little early.
Yes.
Yep. Xbox One only, though? Because I know a lot of us want to do a lot of us are going to want to do PC, but PlayStation 4 is going to be a big one, too.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are looking at the beta for Xbox One begins.
Are you keeping it to yourself?
No, I'm sorry. It begins October the 23rd for Xbox One, and then the 30th.
We've got some
the
time.
30th for PS4 and PC.
So just a little bit over a week.
And it is my understanding that everything that you do in the beta will roll over into the launch.
Oh, wow.
So it's basically a head start.
Yeah.
It kind of is, yeah.
Awesome.
It's a head start of a head start.
Yes.
Well, if there are no other questions, let us move on to this week in the news. We have the news. It all happened this week because it's this week's news. And we're going to talk about it. This one, this first little bit of news I'm going to throw out to Robin. So Guild Wars 2, the Mad King, returns this week on the 16th. And it's been several years at least, and he's still mad. So what's going on with that? And are you excited for the event?
Yes, I'm really excited about it. So for people who don't play Guild Wars 2, it's like he's mad because he's angry, but he's also mad as in absolutely crazy, like just insane. And his son is just as insane as him too. So there's a whole labyrinth that you can go into, and there's a part where they're arguing together, and it's just brilliant and wonderful. Lots of puns. But one of the things that I am really excited about is something is coming back this year that hasn't been in since the very first Mad King holiday. My brain went on what the actual name is. I don't know why, but the Reaper Rumble is back.
Ooh.
So I'm excited because I absolutely love that, and to have it back finally is just super exciting.
One of the things that I love about the Guild Wars 2 events, well, I guess I love it and I hate it. We've already seen that this kind of came out last year, and they've have it again this year. The limited time mounts, like the spooky mounts that they have, those are really cool. The Raptor mount is personally one of my favorites. But it's always, they always have the cool gear that you can get specifically for these events, and they always do it for every event. In fact, I think like the Winter's Day event or something like that, there's this one particular piece that's like really coveted that you can only get. I think
the snowflakes.
Yeah. So
I'm still working on that.
Are you?
Yeah, I've been working on it for like 4 years now, I think.
Okay, so it's been a while. It's been a while for you. So that's really cool, and I think you mentioned you might be doing a little bit of an article about that next week. Mad King. Yeah,
the weekly Guild Wars 2 article. I'm gonna talk a bit about like the history of the festival and Guild Wars 2, maybe a little in Guild Wars 1 as well, and then talk about some of the stuff that's new and whatnot or coming back. I'm sure a lot of people have never experienced Reaper's Rumble or don't even remember that it was a thing.
I don't, and I've been playing since launch. Yeah.
Right. So it'll be fun.
And in more Guild Wars 2 news, October 20th, there's going to be a World vs. World raid event for charity. Is this something that you think you're going to be checking out too?
Possibly. I'm thinking about it. It's been a while since I've been in World vs. World, though, so a little bit of mayhem there, but yeah.
Most definitely, yeah. Most definitely. Dame, you gonna come back for some holiday events for Guild Wars 2 this time around?
It's hard to say because Destiny 2's Festival of the Lost returns as well. So, I mean,
rated.
What do
we already
you
know.
think?
We
What
already
do
know.
you think?
We already know. All right, fine, whatever, Dame. Cheese.
Sure.
But, that's cool.
If you want to stay with an inferior game.
I wouldn't go that far, but let's keep going. We still got some more news to hit, and we don't have much time to hit it. Keeping up with some of that crazy news that we had in the ever-shifting landscape of online games. Hyper Universe, which is a game that I reviewed not so very long ago whenever it came over from the East. They are shutting down their Korean servers, which is also something that NeoWiz has done to their Bless servers in Korea. So what do you guys think? Is that signaling that we may see some North American closures for both of those, Hyper Universe and Bless? What do you think?
Isn't Bless getting ready to transition to free-to-play or something?
Yes, it is.
They have to let people go to make it free to play.
I still just keep coming back to the question of, like, how many times are we going to talk about Bless closing something down? I mean,
at least one more every time we talk about it.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat about Fallout 76. Is this considered a shared world style of MMO, kind of like Destiny? I would say, in my summation, yes. Feels very, very similar to that as somebody who's a very, very active Destiny player. Yes, it feels very similar. I would definitely use that as a good parallel. But it's Fallout with your friends too, so there's that. I'm honestly not paid for the number of times that I say that. It's just the best. It's just the best thing that I can keep coming back to describe it.
He's lying. That's why he's got all that stuff on his chair. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Well, I mean, I am special.
Oh, we knew that.
He asked a good question though. Is it a new server every time you log in?
I believe it is, because all of your character information is tied to your character. So all of your gear and whatnot is all tied to you as a character. So I believe that is the case.
Interesting. Because that kind of brings up a broader question of encampments and how that all kind of works. I mean, I know that you can build kind of little encampments or whatever, but a full-blown settlement, what if you placed it in a place that on another server someone already built something somewhere?
That's a great question. If that happens, or if the area is nuked, because again, remember, you can get nuclear launch codes within the game, or something happens to the terrain, I believe it is that if your stuff isn't destroyed while you're logged in, and something changes with the terrain, that all of that stuff is then returned to your inventory, or it's returned to your stash, I believe it is.
Okay.
And so then the next time you lay your camp, then you're able to access the blueprint for those things to be able to lay that thing back down.
You just basically have to rebuild.
What's that, Robin?
What if your stash is full?
That's a great question. I am
bags.
Well, I am a serial hoarder. I have a weight problem in Bethesda games. So
always 30 pounds over.
Yes, or more, at minimum. At minimum. That's why you always carry some type of food or beverage that allows you to carry stuff along with it. So this is actually pre-recorded gameplay. This was from the event that I had the opportunity to be at last week. It was the world premiere of gameplay for Fallout 76. So unfortunately, no, it's not live right now. But it is. I had about 3 hours with the game to be able to get hands on. So Anyway, I'm just curious if I'm wandering through an area within the game and move to a new zone. Is that zone instance like Destiny? Remember how going between zones would completely switch between a new instance. It's not instanced.
It's kind of like how the Division was. They kind of did chunking between like the level areas. Like you could run through the entire level, but it was split up between 24, 24, 24 in an area. So for example, you would have you'd be in the low level area, and then whenever you crossed a threshold, it would kind of load you into another one. So like say someone was chasing you, if you went into the other area, they could still chase you, but everybody else that was not going through that other area, they would have their own 24, you would have a new 24. So it kind of like chunked areas based on, how I guess how you traverse through the world.
Yeah, they were a little dodgy about how some of the mechanics of the thing worked. I think that they're still trying to work on some optimization, and so they weren't really wanting to commit to an answer of how all of that stuff worked. I know that I asked them a little bit about graphics optimization for PC, and they're like, "Well, we're still trying to optimize it for the consoles right now, so we imagine that there's going to be some type of thing, but." We're not sure. Yes, everybody has their own loot table. So you all have your own loot table, and you all get XP off of killing something if you hit it before it dies.
Nice.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Indeed.
I wonder if the same stuff drops for everybody, or if you have a chance at. Okay.
You have different loot. We saw that when we killed the big nasty Deathclaw. We all got different gear that was all unique to us.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, that's really cool. That means, and then do we know if I'm supposing since you can sell things, you could also be a trader, or you could trade things, right? Yes,
you can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Cool. And yes, I do look like a radio DJ in a Marvel movie, always and forever. That's my actual look. That's like whenever I go.
It's his brand.
Yeah, whenever I go into a store, like a clothing store, and they say, "What are you looking for?" I'm just like, "Make me look like a radio DJ from a Marvel movie." And they're like, "I gotcha." That's how I turned out this way. Let's see.
And I don't have any word on what time the stress tests began. Not really sure on that. So. Sorry, no answer there for you.
So
sure. I would say keep in touch with all of Bethesda's social media stuff. I'm sure that they'll get that out there. Yep.
Like a fat boy. So let's keep going.
Finish news.
Yeah, we still got some good news. So we talked about the closures a little bit, and we just barely touched on that, but we're gonna blow past it because we don't know what's gonna happen.
I was gonna say there's only so much you can say about that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yes, Chris. I was playing with somebody from the Washington Post. That may or may not have been the same person that leaked screenshots on Reddit.
Tut.
Oh, geez.
I'm not going to say anything more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the guy had any ill intention. He seemed like a nice enough guy. I don't want to guess motive, but it was just. I had a little bit of a moment of panic though when I heard that my publication's name showed up on something that showed up on Reddit that was not supposed to be there.
Ooh.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I would freak out.
Yeah, at least it wasn't video posted to certain hubs that we will not go into.
Yeah, that's one bit of news that I did not throw on for this week. But you can definitely bring that up at the end of the show if you would like, Bowman. As well as if you watched said video, and we can just stop it at that point. But before we go there, let's talk a little bit about Project Stream by Google. It's a streaming service that will allow players to stream games directly through their Chrome browser. And that is kind of old news because that's like 2 weeks old. So, but it's in beta right now, and I'm going to be doing a big impressions piece from several different high and low end PCs in an attempt to run the whole spectrum of naughtiness that one may encounter when they try this kind of service. But oh me, oh my, everyone. Microsoft last Tuesday announced that they want attention. So they released information on Project xCloud, which will let you play all your games on all your platforms, not just things that have a Chrome browser. So what does that mean? Are we looking at like an app stream service that they plan to roll out across PC and Xbox and mobile and maybe other consoles at some point? What do you think?
I'm waiting for the day that Microsoft just finally decides, oh, hey, the Xbox is really just kind of a low-powered PC for the living room. Why not just make stuff for both?
It's kind of amazing that they haven't gotten there.
Let's just make it one thing.
That's basically, well, that's almost what they're doing here. I think maybe this is easing them into that realization, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I do use my Xbox controller for lots of games on PC, so...
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Most definitely. But I'm interested to see how this turns out, and I'm interested to see exactly how this would work on a mobile platform, because there are some games that even if you can get a controller connected to the mobile, I don't see how people could see it. You're going to have to get like a magnifying glass and use the controller with your toes and just go full on chimpanzee to get this stuff.
It's going to be like the original Game Boy that had like all of those like add-ons so that you could play in the dark or magnify it.
You know what? I found my Game Boy Color and I found one of those little lights that plugs into it. It's got a little swirl and it goes around. I was like, wow, this stuff is so old.
Looks like you got another question out there, Dame.
As far as PvP system, if you attack a player and they run for a while and then you give up fighting them, but they fight back, then how would that work? I have no idea.
Well, I would assume that once you attack a player, you flag no matter what, right? So whether you kill them or not is what you said. So if you're trying to attack a player, and I guess there's... can you unflag, I guess? Is there a way, like, if you attack a player and then you run away, is there like a time limit before you lose your bounty or whatever?
So there is. I had one instance where we were running through an alleyway, and there were some irradiated mole rats that were coming out of this building, and I saw something in my periphery that was just kind of running fast towards me, and so my inclination was just like whip around and shoot at it.
Right.
Well, it was one of the devs, and so they're like, hey man, you don't want this. So, like, all right, I'm sorry, my bad. You know,
/nuke Pastor Dame.
Yeah, didn't mean anything by it, and so that bounty then ended up ticking off. I think that if you are, I think the system is gracious enough where it's going to account for those accidental things. But it's also going to there is going to be a forgiveness thing, like, and I think that it's going to be based on like how heinous of the offense you perpetrate. Yeah. So
like
that's my understanding.
Oops, but if it's like a groin shot, it's like no, immediately.
Well, that's kind of like I was wondering about. I know. Way back in the history of WoW, there was an issue for a bit where, like, you know, if you use an AoE spell or something, it was possible for somebody in the other faction to stand in it and then force you to flag. Yep. So I was curious if there's anything to protect against that happening in Fallout 76.
I have no idea. Couldn't answer that one for you. Sorry, Robin.
Sorry.
Let's keep going.
Let's do it. We'll get through the news one of these days.
One of these days. We only have a couple more things on the list, and then we hit plugs. So,
hey,
video card fans rejoice, or maybe not. Who knows? There's a rumor that AMD's next-gen GPUs are set to hit next month. It's a rumor. We don't know. So I know that Bowman is really excited about getting some benchmark tests in. Are you going to be ready for some benchmarking if it comes your way, Bowman?
I don't expect anything coming my way anytime soon, but I'm always ready to learn new things and benchmark stuff. I've only benchmarked one thing, and it was that SSD from T-Force.
Oh.
So
well, there you have it. Well, I know that Dame's always excited about these kind of things, but
it is.
I would love to do it,
So here's, I was actually talking with one of our other writers earlier today about this, because the rumor that we got is that they are looking at doing a 600 series of cards that's based on the same Polaris architecture as the previous generation /2.
Right.
Of cards. It's my understanding that the 500 series was essentially just kind of like a supercharged version of the 400 series. And then it's looking like this one is just going to be like a 15% performance increase over that. And whereas the RX 580 is already significantly behind where NVIDIA's former flagship cards were at. Now that we have the RTX series that's out, there are two things that really are kind of the big things that the AMD has to do within this. One is with performance. Like the performance has to be comparable to whatever we end up seeing out of the 2070 cards, or whatever the mid-range 20 series card, yet to be announced 20 series cards that we're going to be get, and the price has to be very, very competitive, because right now, unfortunately, AMD is kind of they're behind the 8-ball. They're very, very far behind the 8-ball in this game. But the one place where they really can make up ground is being in that is being in that moderately priced range. NVIDIA, I love their stuff, but I think they're a little bit drunk on their lead when it comes to their pricing for their stuff. Now, I have no concept of what it takes to be able to put these things together.
Make them?
Yes, to actually make them. But when you're looking at a consumer grade card that's in the $1,000 range, and that's just one component, especially when Intel's jacking up the price of their stuff too. Yeah. There's this escalation that's happening, and this inflation that's happening with the prices that's getting a little ridiculous for the average gamer.
Yeah.
I'm being generous and saying.
Honestly, it was always kind of out there, though.
The average gamer is still using an RX 480.
Well, I was going to say, to me, it seems like NVIDIA is focusing more on the, extreme, the really top-end, people who want the best, that's their focus. Yeah, and AMD is looking for more the core market of everybody else who wants to do things but doesn't want necessarily all of that. Yeah. And it kind of feels like that's how they're dividing up the market in some ways.
That would make sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So as I'm thinking,
if the price point's there this time around,
yes, right.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of bit them with the Vega cards. The Vega cards were just inaccessible. Not only from a price point, but I mean, you just couldn't find them. They were like a unicorn. We thought they existed in myth and legend, but we've never really seen one in the wild. I know that they're there, but unfortunately, I wish there was something a little bit more that I wish we were seeing a little bit more of the Navi stuff that they've been talking about, a little bit more of the 7 nanometer stuff versus the 12. But who knows? Maybe maybe this is the first bump, to get them at least a little bit more competitive with where things are in the market, and then to release something else. I mean, the Vega thing, I keep going back to that. I think that their partnership with Apple kind of shot them in the foot. I think Apple accidentally announced early that Vega was a thing, and then they were like, and then the PC community was like, wait a minute, why are they getting that and we're not getting this?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, oh, we have these cards now. You can have them.
Magic.
Suddenly, it's a thing.
Unbelievable.
But yes, I will be very interested to see what comes of this.
Well,
I think any competition in this realm is healthy. Then there's also rumors that Intel's getting into the GPU game in 2020.
Really?
So we hear. We're gonna have to wait and see what's going on with that. But for
their new cards will be so much less than the Nvidia stuff. Watch.
We will have to wait and see, but we only have a month to wait before we find out whether or not that rumor is true. So let's go on to our last piece of news. Can you tell by my voice how excited I am?
Yes.
Maple Story 2 is out and about. And they got the little chibi faces and their big little heads and their 3D models and all their, all the...
It's adorable.
Of course.
The only Maple Story I have is the leaves falling off my tree.
Yeah. That is unfortunate because I was really hoping to see like a chibi version of Bowman in that game with the big head and the... It would be fantastic.
Hold on.
There we go. He's creating his own little Maple Story 2 right there. But I've been hearing wonderful things about this game. I heard that there's a lot of really cool stuff. And I know we have a review in progress out there. I think Ralph's taking care of it, and I trust that man with his reviews.
Everything chibi.
He might have even completed it. I don't know, but so it sounds like
he wrote the Maple Story.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody I know that has been playing it has been raving about it, and I'm just like, shut up! I don't need another game. Stop.
Ralph says that they have beards, and you can do that. That's great. He is out there, and he is almost at max level. That is amazing.
Oh, okay.
Well, that is fantastic. You know what? I know Ralph threw out some questions to the devs, and hopefully he'll be on sometime soon. So we could talk about it, but get
back to your schoolwork, Ralph.
I think everyone's been kind of hoping that this thing will make its way to Switch, and personally, I know Ralph said it's not going to happen anytime soon, but I've been hoping to see it hit a mobile state at some point, because I know Maple Story 1 is now on mobile. I want them to bring 2 on over, because I've been playing too many mobile games because I'm always... I don't know. I'm never on my computer anymore. I'm not really on the go. It's just I'm too lazy. And whenever I get home, I just lay on the floor, and the only thing I can reach is my phone. And I'm just like, just play the game like this.
I play a lot of Force Arena when I'm not doing anything.
So I'm really excited about trying it out, but I don't know when I'm going to do that. I'd like to see where it's going to go, though. If it happens to show up on Switch. I mean, we all got to get in on some of that. That would be fantastic. It looks like it would be a really great game on Switch. But you guys don't seem like you're too interested in getting in on it right now. So
too many games. Like, I'm already playing 3 MMOs and like other games on top of it, and like I can't.
I just started playing Star Trek Online again for the new Age of Discovery stuff, and I got Lord of the Rings. They're bringing out new stuff already that I got to go back and play, and there's just too much to do and not enough time to do it, especially when you're pounding hours a day in PUBG.
Yeah, of course. And what about you, Dame? And if you say because of Destiny 2, I swear. No, I understand.
He swears you will not be invited back anytime soon until next week.
No. Yeah, until next week.
Until next week.
Yeah. You're grounded.
You're grounded, mister.
No, I definitely feel you on the Destiny 2 stuff. So I will not hold it against you this time.
All right. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? I think that's it for the news. Unless you guys have anything special, did you guys want to bring up any new tidbits of information that you'd like to share with the group before we hit plugs this week? I can see by everyone's non-expression of faces that they have nothing to add. So let's go straight into plugs, and let's start with Robin this week because she's here. What do you got?
She's like, what?
Wow. Wait, this is just where we talk about where they can find our shit, right?
What you're playing,
all right.
You know, what you've got out there, where, you know, what you've done recently, what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it.
Most recently, I reviewed Pathfinder Kingmaker, which is amazing. It's an awesome game. I think right on the top, I compared it to Neverwinter Nights, which for me is a huge comparison because that game still ranks in my top 3 favorite games of all time.
It's a good game.
Like, I can't decide between the top 3, so like it's hard, but it's somewhere in there. But it's one of the best translations of a D&D style game into a computer game I've seen. Like, and they've made it like the amount of options you have in that game is like overwhelming almost, because like any way you want to play, you can customize it to that style of play, and that's awesome and amazing because it helps out people who have been playing these games for a long time, but also people who maybe never played these sorts of games before. There's a lot of variance in there. I love that. So yeah, that's my big thing that I'm going to keep going with that for a bit because it's amazing.
Awesome.
Aside from that, I'm still playing WoW, still playing Guild Wars 2, still trying to play Final Fantasy 14. That's the one that's kind of falling on the wayside, and I'm like, I need to get back. But 3 MMOs is rough.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty tough. And whenever I'm on Guild Wars 2, I never see you on, and I'm like, oh no, I'm so lonely.
Sorry.
But, no, it's not a problem. So where can people find your stuff? Do you have anything coming out this week that you would like people to take note of?
This week. Thinking about this week. No. Next Friday I have the Guild Wars 2 column, but that's the only thing on my plate right now.
It's good to have a clean plate.
Yep. And you can always like follow me on Twitter at Arlie82 because I post everything there.
Fantastic. And Bowman, let's get into you. What do you got going on?
That didn't sound right.
No, that did not sound right. But
Phrasing.
Dang it. So, as you stated at the beginning of this entire show, I've recently written a mini novel for Ring of Elysium, which is hopefully, you know, I was talking to Susie about it, might potentially turn out to be once a month, once every couple months kind of column where I go into my battle royales, and we'll call it Bowman's Battle Royale Corner or something like that. But basically I took on Ring of Elysium, which is a very fun game, which is an early access, free to play. Go download it.
No.
It's like 10 times more optimized than PUBG at the beginning and now. I feel like it's better than Blackout for Black Ops 4.
Really?
Oh yeah, you can snowboard, you can hang glide, you can zip line, and that's the fun stuff.
That's the only stuff that matters. If you just had a snowboarding game where you could zip line, you'd just be in heaven.
I was gonna say, can you just run around just doing that stuff?
You can, but you still have to avoid the storm, and
you're probably gonna get shot.
The best mechanic on this one that changes it for how the game ends is you can kill everybody and win the game, but you have to evacuate through a helicopter. So even if you kill everybody, you still got to get to the helicopter before the storm kills you.
You can still die.
Oh, wow. So it doesn't magically end when you kill everybody.
So there's a chance that nobody can win.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but sure. I mean, I watched. I was in a game and I got down to number 3 and got killed as I was going up the ladder to the helicopter. And then one guy runs and he jumps in the helicopter. And then this other dude sat there for like 2 minutes, like, "Where's this other guy at? Where's this other guy at?" He's not even in the helicopter. We're waiting for the game to end. This guy's sitting in the storm, getting hurt, and he's just dropping damage.
Do you get to do like tricks? Can you do tricks when you're snowboarding?
You can jump. You can jump. You can yes, do front flips. You do spin around and stuff. So there are tricks to it. It's set at a ski village type resort. So there is one spot you can start at that actually is set up like you're at like the Olympics, let's say. Okay. It's all downhill skiing and snowboarding stuff. So you're actually going down a set path where you don't have to worry about flipping off of hills and stuff like that.
Lovely.
But basically, my piece is going to be on MMORPG.com next week. It's got comparisons and contrasting points for that versus PUBG Last Tide, which is another battle royale. In case anybody didn't know, it's an underwater battle royale where you can go around as a scuba diver and try and avoid Megalodon, because that is the most recent update to the game. You can try and kill Megalodon during the game, or if you win, you have a chance to try and kill him, and you get prizes for doing it. Wow. What do they give you? I have no clue because I haven't tried it yet. But and then I also compared and contrasted it with Black Ops 4 Blackout, since I did get a chance to play the beta. Awesome. So that'll be out next week. I just had a piece this last week go out for the Arena desk from Arazi, gaming desk, which I'm sitting at right now. It is
sitting on.
I'm sitting on the desk. You guys know.
you had a few desk reviews going on, so now one desk could be your chair and the other desk could be the desk.
Right. So the Arena desk is the full size version, which I did a review on that came out last week because something got bumped, and Chris is like, "Hey, we need something." I was like, "Okay, here it comes."
Nice.
Like 1,400 words later. But that came out next week, Monday. The second desk review I'm doing is for the Arazi Arena Ligero desk, which is a more compact desk. It's supposed to be. It's basically the same as the Arena except smaller.
Right.
And it's meant for people who have smaller living spaces. Okay. So you don't have to have a big, huge living room to be able to play your video games on a nice, comfortable desk. Yeah. So
like Smurfs, Hobbits, like all those kind of guys. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It would fit perfectly in Bilbo's office for his writing table.
Perfect.
I'm also working on a Logitech G502 review, which is going to come out Wednesday, I believe, if I looked at the calendar correctly. And I'm just been working on a bunch of games. I've got Deliver Us the Moon Fortuna, which just came out last week, I believe. And The Lights Will Keep Us Safe is another one that should have already posted. Other than that, I'm working on some other stuff, WWE 2000 or 2K19, and
can you make your own wrestler?
Yes, you can.
That's my favorite part of making my own.
I've set up. So basically, you can set up. The faces come pretty much pre-made, but you can adjust them a little bit. There's not usually that much customization for characters in WWE games, but you can customize your character. You can make them like super big or like super skinny, heavyweight, cruiserweight, whatever you want to do. Yeah. As far as the suits are concerned, as you progress through the game, and I don't want to say too much about it, but you'll be able to get more stuff just like every other game.
Right.
So
yeah.
But yeah, it's all fun and games. I want to cut it short there because that kind of technically I shouldn't be talking about till next week.
Oh snap! Oh snap!
But I'm just saying customization basically is customization, so not really any big
no spoilers there. Cool beans. And then talking about beans, Dame, what do you got going on this week?
This week has been just get all of the stuff and things about Fallout 76 to all of you good people. So I have 2 videos and 2 articles that are on mmorpg.com. One is the first 9 minutes of gameplay, so it's basically leaving the vault, so you can see that experience if you want to watch that. The other thing was I did kind of an interesting take of like the 5 things that you didn't know that you should know about Fallout 76. So you can check that out as well. I have an article that was a roundtable interview with the devs that goes in a little bit more in depth on some of the stuff that we talked about already here, and then one that was just kind of my general impressions on Fallout 76 with the 3 hours of gameplay that I got to have with that. Aside from that, I've got a piece that came out this week, reviewed a Switch game called Soul Blight. That was a very challenging game. Definitely challenges the way that you play a role-playing game, and really makes you lean into like the RP elements of like how would you play a character that has these type of characteristics to them. Wasn't necessarily my jam, but I can give it credit for trying some unique things. So you can find that review there. I have sometime in this next week a game that comes off of embargo that I can't talk about just yet. That I might be able to talk a little bit more in depth about next week. But it's on a very unlikely platform. And that's about all I am going to say about that.
Oh, he's going to be
on the Vita. What?
On a calculator.
Vita confirmed. So I mean, outside of that, you can find my stuff on GameSpace and MMORPG. You can follow me on Twitter at Pastor Dame, and then aside from that, I have a podcast called Roll the Level. It's a running conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order. And we've kind of been on a little bit of a break the last couple of weeks. Matt, who's another one of the writers here at GameSpace and MMO, he and I do this together along with our friend Sarah. But Matt's been on vacation for the last week for Canadian Thanksgiving. So we've taken a little bit of a hiatus, and then I was away last week for the event. So, the last conversation that we had was about some games that we were looking forward to that are coming up at the end of 2018. So, yeah.
Ooh, Super Smash Brothers was on the list?
Indeed.
I was about to say that.
Okay.
I was like,
all right.
there.
Yes, indeed.
I'm just making sure that you were honest. I mean,
absolutely. Got to keep it 100%.
Checks and balances.
Right.
That's all it is. Excellent.
Indeed.
What about you, sir?
Well, what about me? I do a lot of things, and I have no idea what half of them are. I have another game I'm supposed to do a review this week. I have not even started on it. And yet it is due sometime this week. So
this week is close over, sir.
Starting next
week.
week. Sometime around Wednesday.
Gotcha.
It's due, and I will make sure that it gets done. But I couldn't tell you for the life of me what it's called. So look for that one. Aside from that, I've been working on a lot of side projects lately. Hero Signal is kind of my big one. We've got our third episode. We had some monthly show talking about all things superheroes, shows, comics, movies, all those kind of things. And our third episode was kind of delayed a little bit, but it's now it should be live now. So check it out. Just look for the Hero Signal, and we're on Stitcher, iTunes, all the places where you can hear things with your ears. Another thing, if you're going to hear things with your ears, is the podcast for GS2. If you missed a lot of this episode, you want to hear what's going on, because we're 2 weeks away from the beta, and if you want to hear Dame explain all of everything, and you don't want to read all his columns because you're always on a train and you live there and you don't have a good I guess you can't read or something because it's moving and trains, whatever your reason, just head on over and listen to our GS2 episodes. We have a lot of great episodes. Last week we talked about the Fortnite effect. We've had episodes covering everything, and we have a lot of great episodes coming up as well. So I love plugging that. But aside from that, anything else I do, I can't tell you because I have no idea myself. So good luck on finding me, suckers. Sorry, everyone.
If you need his details, just message me afterwards.
Yeah, Bowman's going to give me away. That's the thing. He's going to send out my address and my phone number and just my email.
Oh no.
No doxing
you will
here,
send
please.
me you'll send me nice RGB stuff if I don't give your details out.
Blackmailing me. But that seems to be it for this week, unless anyone else has anything else you'd like to say.
No, just thank you guys for all of your questions, and feel free to tweet at us, and thanks for being here.
Awesome.
And when he says tweet at us, he means Twitter, because if you actually tweeted us, we won't hear you.
Faux show. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next week. Actually.
Maybe.
Bye, everybody.